Hola, it's Klayton, and welcome to episode 31 of Ask Celldweller. And I've got some great questions I'm about to jump into, but first, I want to tell you about the next episode of Ask Celldweller because it's going to be a very special edition titled Ask Circle of Dust. And for those of you who know what Circle of Dust is, you already know where this is going. And for those of you who don't, I will explain. Circle of Dust was my very first project, and only recently was I able to buy back the rights to my first 5 albums, and I will be remastering and re-releasing all of those albums and all of that content next year in 2016. So I will give you details at the end of this episode how you can submit your questions for Circle of Dust for the very next episode in January. Stay tuned and let's jump into your questions.
Hi Klayton, if you go to Golden Fish, what 3 wishes will make come true?
Julia, I would love to catch a magic fish, and I hope one day that I will. But if I had 3 wishes after I caught this fish, I know what they would be. I want to be able to eat as much as I can, whenever I want, and still be healthy and thin. So far, it's not really working out. Secondly, I'd like to live for as long as I want. I think people would say, hey, I'd like to live forever, but what if you get to a point where you're like, all right, I've lived long enough. So I want to be able to decide when I've lived long enough and that's good enough. And then the third thing I'd love to do is to be able to time travel, because then I can jump between timelines and see history and see the future and become part of it. And maybe in the future, space travel will be possible and I will actually go out into space. You don't know the power of the dark side. Aaron, in light of the imminent release of episode 7, which I'm as excited as probably all of you are to see, this is a great question. I'll start by saying that my favorite episode is episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And it may be predictable, but my favorite character is Darth Vader. And for the same reasons, like characters like Godzilla and Hellboy and people like that are characters that I love because they are kind of big and monstrous and somewhat ominous, but they're really sort of misunderstood and they're actually kind of kind at heart. So Darth Vader is my man, episode 5 is the film, and I can't wait for episode 7. Chris, that is a well thought out question, and I think about it often, and it's weird for me to look back on the technology I used to use, and only then do I realize how far I've actually come and how far technology itself has come. So I can only imagine what will be possible in the next 15 to 20 years. I do imagine a lot more tactile control. Maybe they'll be virtual, maybe they'll be holograms or holographic imagery, where you're controlling things by doing this kind of thing, like Minority Report, that kind of deal. We can only hope.
Hi, this is Patrick. I'm in Germany, and I'm wearing my Circle of Dust Disengage t-shirt. And I have 2 nerdy questions about Metamorphosis. Deviate, sawed off shotgun edit, equals, by Brainchild, equals Deviate by Circle of Dust. Will you be releasing the exact same track twice? And second nerdy question, what about the Living Sacrifice material, especially Desolate, which is just a previously unreleased track by the band that has nothing to do with you really and your music? So what will happen with that material? Thanks!
Patrick, you're a little early to the races, and that's good, because the next episode of this show will be a completely Ask Circle of Dust related episode. But because you asked this question, and it's a great question, I'm going to answer that right now. And anyone else interested in asking Circle of Dust related questions, stay tuned, because at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. Here's the backstory for what you just laid out. It's pretty simple. I did that remix album, and it was released from the label I was on, and then they had gotten much bigger distribution. So they wanted to re-release a bunch of albums through this bigger distribution chain, and I realized that I'd spent all this time on this project Brainchild, and it really should be a Circle of Dust album. So what I did is I took a few of the songs that I liked, like the sawed-off shotgun remix of Deviate, I like that better than the original, and I put that on the Circle of Dust Brainchild album. So when I re-release Metamorphosis next year, which will be remastered, Obviously, Metamorphosis won't have Deviate on it because that version of Deviate will be on the Brainchild album. If you're confused, good, so am I. But stick in there because I have more to say. As far as the Living Sacrifice remixes on Metamorphosis, I spoke to Bruce from Living Sacrifice recently, and he is totally cool with me releasing these on Metamorphosis. So they will be included and remastered for your listening enjoyment. Their bonus track that was included on Metamorphosis, I had nothing to do with, so that won't be part of it. But all the other remixes that I did will be, along with all of the other Circle of Dust remixes that are part of that, and a ton more bonus content you guys have never heard, because I'm cracking the vault to a bunch of my demos from that whole era, the whole Circle of Dust era, and we'll be releasing a lot of that content over the entire year with each release. Hunter, that's a very difficult question because it's like asking somebody what their favorite musician is or their favorite movie. It's hard to pick just one, and in this case it's hard to just pick 3 composers that I really love. You know, starting with Vangelis, and Blade Runner is my favorite movie. It's in my top 3 movies of all time. Wendy Carlos is another one. She would use synthesizers. I mean, she was one of the first people to really utilize synthesizers in score and in modern music. And to wrap it up, another favorite of mine, who not only scored his own movies, but he directed them and oftentimes wrote them, would be John Carpenter. And John Carpenter, I mean, Escape from New York is another one of those movies that I loved. Unfortunately, watching it now in the modern day, I realize how inadequate certain aspects of the movie are. But as a kid, I loved that movie from top to bottom, and the score was part of that.
John Carpenter's Escape from New York, the high adventure of the future.
I am very glad to hear that you want more Outland merch because there's more coming. The designs and the stuff that you guys have available to you right now at weareoutland.com, that clothing is only really considered part of the soft launch, which means that's only part of the clothing line, and I didn't go very far in trying to promote it yet. There are more designs coming, and I can't wait for you to see them.
Hi Clay, my name is Necron-kun. I greet you as one of the Necron Lords. I became your fan recently, and so one interesting thing. I think that your songs are linked with some storyline. Can you clarify whatever all your albums drenched with some storyline?
Greetings, Necron, and thank you for your question. It is true that I have storylines that thread throughout my albums. I don't have the time to tell you what they all mean and what they all are, but it is true that when I write lyrics that I can't help but think of stories. I'm creating worlds, I'm building worlds, and I do this for myself because it makes it more interesting for me, and I'm glad to see and hear that it's interesting for you guys because I plan on doing a lot more of it. Thanks for sticking all the way through episode 31 of Ask Celldweller. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, the next episode that airs in January 2016 is going to be a very special edition because it will be Ask Circle of Dust. So you guys will do this the same way you would with Ask Celldweller. You're going to ask your question relating to Circle of Dust in the comments below. You can hashtag Ask Circle of Dust or submit a video of your pretty face and send it right to the link in this moon. And you can be on the next episode. And the first episode ever of Ask Circle of Dust. Until next time, this is Klayton signing off.